The club's bass thumped through Marcus's chest, a pulse that matched the chaos in his heart. He stood at the bar, nursing a whiskey, eyes scanning the crowd until they locked on HEMA's stranger with a crooked smile that promised trouble. By midnight, they were tangled in sheets. No names exchanged, just heat and fleeting promises whispered in the dark. Marcus had always been the careful one. At 28, he'd built a life in Brooklyn that was steady graphic designer by day, dreamer by night, black, queer, and fiercely independent. He wasn't looking for love in that crowded club, just a moment to forget the weight of a world that often judged him. The stranger, with his tousled brown hair and sharp green eyes, seemed like the perfect distraction. They'd laughed, danced, and stumbled into a night that felt like a spark in a storm electric, but destined to fade. The morning after, Marcus woke to an empty bed, the stranger's scent lingering on the pillow. No note, no number, just the ghost of a night that felt too real. He shook it off, convincing himself it was just another hookup, another fleeting connection in a city of millions. Life moved on. Marcus threw himself into work, sketching bold designs for a new campaign, ignoring the ache that crept in when he passed that same club. 6 months later, the world tilted. Marcus stood in a sunlit garden, his heart pounding as he adjusted his tie. He was about to walk down the aisle as the best man at his cousin Andre's wedding. Andre, 30, was the golden boy of their family, charming, black, straight, and now marrying into a wealthy New England clan. Marcus had met Andre's fiancée, Claire, a kind-hearted white woman with a laugh that lit up rooms. But he hadn't met her family. Not until now. As the music swelled, Marcus turned, and his breath caught. There, in the front row, was him, the stranger from that night. Same crooked smile, same green eyes, now dressed in a sharp suit, watching Marcus with a look that burned. Marcus's knees buckled. This wasn't just a guest. This was Claire's brother, Ethan, 29. The man Marcus had spent one unforgettable night with. The man he'd tried to forget. The ceremony blurred past. Marcus stood beside Andre, smiling for the cameras. But his mind was a storm. Ethan's gaze followed him, heavy with unspoken questions. How had they ended up here? What did that night mean to him? Marcus's heart raced as he realized this wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a collision of past and present. A test of secrets and truths. After the vows, the reception buzzed with laughter and champagne. Marcus avoided Ethan, sticking close to Andre, who clapped him on the back, oblivious to the tension. "You good, man?" Andre asked, his voice warm. Marcus nodded, but his eyes darted to Ethan across the lawn, now talking to Claire, his sister. The sight twisted something in Marcus's chest: jealousy, longing, fear. Ethan finally approached, glass in hand, his voice low. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, his tone teasing but his eyes searching. Marcus forced a laugh, his throat tight. "Yeah, small world." They stood inches apart, the air thick with what wasn't said. Ethan's fingers brushed Marcus's wrist, a fleeting touch that sent sparks through him. "We should talk," Ethan murmured. But before Marcus could respond, Claire called Ethan away, leaving Marcus alone with his racing thoughts. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He replayed their night together, the way Ethan's hands had felt, the way his laugh had broken through Marcus's walls. But now, Ethan was family, tied to Andre through marriage. What did that mean for them? Could a hookup turn into something more? Or was this just a cruel twist of fate? Marcus stared at the ceiling, knowing one thing: this wedding had changed everything, and there was no going back. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the hotel window, but Marcus felt no warmth. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. Ethan's name now saved from a quick exchange at the reception. No messages. No calls, just silence. He wanted to text, to demand answers. But what could he say? Hey, remember that night? Why are you here? Messing with my head. Marcus had grown up in a tight-knit family, where love was loud but acceptance was hard-won. Coming out at 17 had been a battle, his mom's tears, his dad's silence, Andre's quiet support. Now, at 28, he'd carved out his own space. But this wedding had cracked it open. Ethan wasn't just a memory. He was a living, breathing complication, tied to Marcus's family in ways that felt like a trap. At the post-wedding brunch, Marcus kept his distance, focusing on his aunt's stories and Claire's glowing smile. But Ethan was there, laughing with guests, his ease a stark contrast to Marcus's turmoil. When their eyes met, Ethan's smile faltered, replaced by something raw regret. Maybe. Or longing. Marcus looked away, his heart a knot of anger and want. Later, as guests mingled, Ethan cornered Marcus near the coffee station. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice soft but firm. Marcus shrugged, gripping his cup. What's there to say? It was one night. Ethan's jaw tightened. Was it? He asked, stepping closer. Because I haven't stopped thinking about you. Marcus's breath hitched, but he pushed back. You're Claire's brother. Andre's my cousin. This is impossible. Ethan's eyes darkened. Nothing's impossible unless we make it that way. Before Marcus could argue, Andre called him over, breaking the moment. Marcus walked away, Ethan's words echoing in his mind. He wanted to believe them, but the stakes were too high. Family, loyalty, the risk of heartbreak. That afternoon, Marcus drove back to Brooklyn, the city's skyline of familiar comfort. He threw himself into work, sketching furiously. But Ethan's face kept surfacing in his designs, those green eyes, that crooked smile. By evening, he gave in and texted, "We need to talk. Coffee tomorrow." Ethan's reply was instant. Name the place. They met at a small cafe in Williamsburg, the air thick with autumn chill and unspoken tension. Ethan arrived first, his flannel shirt replaced by a sweater that made him look softer, more vulnerable. I didn't know who you were that night, he said, stirring his coffee. But I knew you were different. Marcus scoffed, hiding his nerves. Different how? A fun story to tell your friends. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low. You made me feel alive. Marcus, I haven't felt that since. Marcus wanted to push back, to protect himself. But Ethan's honesty disarmed him. They talked for hours about their lives, their fears, their dreams. Ethan, a freelance photographer, had grown up in a wealthy but distant family, always feeling like an outsider. Marcus shared his own struggles being black and queer in a world that often rejected both. By the time they parted, the air felt lighter. But the questions remained. Could they build something real? Or would family ties tear them apart? That night, Marcus lay awake, torn between hope and fear. Ethan wasn't just a hookup anymore, was a possibility. A risk. A spark that refused to die. But with Andre and Claire in the picture, every step forward felt like a step toward chaos. Weeks passed, and Marcus couldn't shake Ethan. Their coffee meetup had turned into late-night texts, stolen glances at family gatherings, and secret walks through Central Park. Each moment felt like a rebellion against the world's rules. But Marcus couldn't deny the pull. Ethan's laughter, his quiet intensity, the way he saw Marcus really saw him chipped away at his defenses. But the weight of their situation grew heavier. Andre and Claire were newlyweds, blissfully unaware, planning family dinners where Marcus and Ethan had to act like strangers. At one dinner, Ethan's foot brushed Marcus's under the table, a reckless move that sent Marcus's heart racing. He glared at Ethan, who only smirked, his eyes daring Marcus to feel something. It was thrilling and terrifying, a dance on the edge of disaster. Marcus tried to focus on his life. His designs were gaining traction. His friends were planning a pride event, but Ethan was everywhere. One night, Ethan showed up at Marcus's apartment unannounced, his camera slung over his shoulder. "I was shooting nearby," he said, but his eyes betrayed him. He wanted to be there. They sat on the fire escape, sharing a beer, the city humming below. "What are we doing, Ethan?" Marcus asked, his voice raw. Ethan looked at him. "Serious now?" "I don't know, but I know I can't stay away." Their first kiss since that night was slow, deliberate, a promise and a plea. Marcus felt the world shift, the walls he'd built crumbling. But reality crashed in Andre's voice on the phone, inviting Marcus to a family barbecue. Ethan would be there, playing the role of Claire's brother, not Marcus's. What? Lover. Mistake. The lines were blurring, and Marcus hated how much he wanted to cross them. The barbecue was a test. Marcus arrived with a forced smile, helping Andre grill while Ethan played cornhole with Claire's cousins. Every glance between them felt like a secret, heavy with meaning. When Ethan brushed past Marcus to grab a drink, his fingers lingered. A silent question. Marcus pulled away, his heart pounding. He couldn't do this, not here. Not now. Later, as the sun set, Ethan found Marcus alone by the garden. "You're scared," Ethan said, not accusing, just stating a fact. Marcus nodded, his throat tight. "Your family now, Ethan. If this goes wrong, it's not just us who get hurt." Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. "And if we don't try, we'll always wonder what could have been." Marcus wanted to argue, but Ethan's hand on his cheek silenced him. They stood there, hidden by the dusk, two men caught in a moment that felt bigger than them. Back in Brooklyn, Marcus wrestled with his choices. He loved his family, but he was falling for Ethan hard. The thought of hurting Andre or Claire twisted his gut, but so did the idea of letting Ethan go. He started sketching again, pouring his confusion into bold lines and vibrant colors. Each stroke a question. Was love worth the risk? Could he trust Ethan to stay? Or would this end in heartbreak? By the end of the month, Marcus made a choice. He texted Ethan, "Meet me tomorrow. We need to figure this out." The reply came fast. "I'm in. Whatever it takes." Marcus stared at the words, his heart a battlefield of hope and fear. Whatever came next, they were in it together, for better or worse. The air in Marcus's apartment felt charged as Ethan stepped inside, his camera bag slung carelessly over his shoulder. They'd agreed to talk, to lay everything bare. But words felt inadequate now. Marcus poured 2 glasses of wine, his hands trembling slightly, and they sat on the couch, the space between them electric with possibility. "I don't know how to do this," Marcus admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're Claire's brother. Andre's my cousin. This could ruin everything." Ethan leaned forward, his green eyes steady. "Or it could be everything. Marcus, I've spent months replaying that night, wishing I'd stayed, wishing I'd asked your name." Marcus's heart clenched. He wanted to believe Ethan, but trust was a fragile thing. They talked late into the night, unraveling their fears. Ethan spoke of his childhood, always overshadowed by Claire's achievements, always hiding his bisexuality to keep the peace. Marcus shared his own battles growing up Black and queer, fighting for a place in a world that often pushed him to the margins. Their stories wove together, 2 outsiders finding solace in each other. When Ethan reached for Marcus's hand, it wasn't rushed or reckless like that first night. It was a choice, A quiet vow. They kissed, slow and deep. And Marcus felt something shift, a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this could work. But the world outside waited, full of complications. The next week, Marcus invited Ethan to a gallery opening where his designs were featured. It was a risk, being seen together. But Marcus wanted to test this fragile thing between them. Ethan arrived, his camera in hand, snapping candid shots of Marcus laughing with friends. For a moment, they were just two men in love, not a secret threatening to unravel a family. But secrets don't stay buried. At the gallery, Marcus's friend Jamal, who knew about the hookup, raised an eyebrow at Ethan. "This the guy from the club?" he asked. Too loud. Marcus froze. But Ethan just grinned, slipping an arm around Marcus's waist. "Yeah, that's me," he said, and Marcus's fear melted into something warm, something real. They spent more time together, stealing Momensa diner breakfast, a midnight movie, a walk along the Hudson. Each moment built something stronger. But the shadow of family loomed. Marcus dreaded the next family event, knowing they couldn't hide forever. When Claire invited them to a holiday party, Marcus's stomach churned. "We can't keep sneaking around," he told Ethan. "We have to tell them." Ethan nodded, but his face was tense. "Claire's protective. She'll think I'm reckless, jumping into something like this." And Andre, he trailed off. But Marcus knew. Andre was family, fiercely loyal, and fiercely traditional in some ways. Coming out to him as a couple would be a gamble. As the holiday party approached, Marcus felt the weight of their secret grow. He loved Ethan, there was no denying it now, but love wasn't enough. They needed courage, and they needed a plan. Sitting on his fire escape, Marcus sketched a portrait of Ethan, capturing the hope and fear in his eyes. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. But the road ahead was anything but certain. The holiday party was a glittering affair. Claire's family home decked out in lights and laughter. Marcus arrived with a forced smile. Ethan at his side, but not too close. They'd agreed to act normal, to keep their secret until they could talk to Andre and Claire alone. But every glance between them felt like a shout in a quiet room. Andre pulled Marcus into a bear hug, his grin wide. "Man, you're killing it with those designs," he said, oblivious to Marcus's tension. Claire was equally warm, her eyes sparkling as she thanked Marcus for being part of their day. Ethan, meanwhile, played the perfect brother, charming guests while stealing glances at Marcus. It was torture, pretending they were nothing more than acquaintances. As the night wore on, Marcus's resolve wavered. He wanted to grab Ethan's hand, to claim him in front of everyone. But fear held him back. What if Andre reacted badly? What if Claire saw Ethan's feelings as a betrayal? The questions gnawed at him. But Ethan's quiet strength kept him grounded. During a toast, Ethan's fingers brushed Marcus's. A silent promise, "We'll get through this." Later, they slipped away to the balcony. The cold air a sharp contrast to the warmth inside. "I can't keep doing this," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Hiding you feels like hiding myself." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "Then we tell them. Tomorrow. Together." Marcus's heart pounded. But he agreed. They couldn't keep running from the truth. The next day, they met Andre and Claire at a quiet cafe. Marcus's hands shook as he spoke, laying out the story, the hookup, the wedding, the months of falling in love. Andre's face was unreadable, Claire's eyes wide with shock. "You and Ethan?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan took her hand, his voice steady. "I love him, Claire. This isn't a fling." Andre leaned back, his jaw tight. "You're my cousin. Marcus, you should have told me." The word stung. But Marcus held his ground. I was scared. I didn't want to mess things up for you. Claire's eyes softened. But Andre stood, pacing. This is a lot. Man, I need time. He walked out, leaving Marcus's heart in pieces. Claire stayed, her voice gentle. I just want you both to be happy. But it's complicated. She hugged Ethan. Then Marcus. Before leaving to find Andre, Marcus felt Ethan's hand on his shoulder. A quiet anchor in the storm. We did the right thing, Ethan said. But Marcus wasn't sure. Had they broken something that couldn't be fixed? Days passed with no word from Andre. Marcus threw himself into his art, sketching scenes of love and loss, each stroke a release of his fear. Ethan stayed close, his presence a reminder of what they were fighting for. But the silence from Andre was deafening, and Marcus wondered if love was worth the cost of family. Marcus's apartment felt too small, the walls closing in as he waited for Andre's response. Ethan was there every night, cooking dinner, sharing quiet moments. But the uncertainty hung heavy. Marcus sketched obsessively, his designs darker now, reflecting the storm in his heart. Ethan watched, his camera capturing Marcus's intensity, as if he could freeze their love in time. A week later, Andre finally called. Meet me at the park, he said, his voice gruff. Marcus's stomach churned as he and Ethan arrived, finding Andre on a bench, his face tired. I was pissed, Andre admitted. Not because you're together, but because you hid it. Your family. Marcus, you should have trusted me. Marcus's eyes stung. I was scared I'd lose you. Andre sighed, looking at Ethan. You hurt him. I'll kill you, he said, half joking but deadly serious. Ethan nodded, his hand finding Marcus's. I won't. Andre stood, pulling Marcus into a hug. You're my brother. Man, I just want you happy. Relief flooded Marcus. But Claire's hesitation still lingered. She hadn't reached out, and Ethan felt the weight of her silence. Claire invited them to dinner a few days later, her smile cautious but warm. I'm trying to understand, she said, her voice soft. Ethan's my brother, and I want him to be happy. But this is new. Marcus nodded, grateful for her honesty. They talked openly, sharing fears and hopes. And by the end of the night, Claire hugged them both, a tentative step toward acceptance. With family tensions easing, Marcus and Ethan grew bolder. They went on real dates, movies, museums, late-night pizza runs, building a life together. But the world wasn't always kind. At a pride event, a stranger's harsh words cut deep, reminding Marcus of the battles he'd fought to be himself. Ethan stood by him, fierce and unyielding, his love a shield against the hate. One night, Marcus showed Ethan his latest designa, vibrant mural of two men holding hands, their faces blurred but their love clear. This is us, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Ethan kissed him, slow and sure, and Marcus knew this was worth every risk, every fear. But life wasn't a fairy tale. Ethan's photography career took him out of town, and distance tested their bond. Late-night calls weren't enough, and Marcus felt the old doubts creeping in. Was Ethan as committed as he was? Could they survive the pressures of family, society, and their own fears? As Ethan's trip stretched into weeks, Marcus faced a choice: fight for their love or let it slip away. Ethan's absence left a void Marcus couldn't ignore. He filled his days with work, his designs bolder, angrier, each stroke a cry for connection. Ethan's texts were frequent but brief, his voice strained on calls. I'm trying to make this work, Ethan said one night, his face pixelated on Marcus's screen. But I miss you. Marcus wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at him. When Ethan returned, they met at Marcus's apartment, the air heavy with unspoken questions. Ethan looked tired, his camera bag heavier than usual. "I got an offer," he said, his voice low. "A big project in LA. 6 months." Marcus's heart sank. "Are you taking it?" he asked, bracing for the worst. Ethan hesitated, then reached for Marcus's hand. "Not if it means losing you." They talked through the night, weighing their future. Marcus wanted stability, a life built together. But Ethan's career was his passion. They argued, voices rising, until Marcus snapped. "I can't keep waiting for you to choose me." Ethan's eyes flashed with pain. "I'm choosing you now," he said, pulling Marcus close. "I love you." The words hung between them, raw and real, and Marcus felt his walls crumble. They decided to try long distance. But it wasn't easy. Marcus sent sketches to Ethan, who mailed back photos from LA sunsets, street art, moments that screamed, "I'm thinking of you." But distance amplified insecurities. Marcus worried Ethan would find someone else, someone easier, someone who didn't carry the weight of family ties and societal judgment. One night, Marcus attended a family dinner without Ethan. Andre and Claire were there, their love a reminder of what Marcus wanted. Claire pulled him aside, her eyes kind. "Ethan's crazy about you," she said. "He's scared, but he's all in." Her words gave Marcus hope, but also pressure. He wanted to believe in their future, but fear lingered. When Ethan visited, they fell back into each other's arms, the distance melting away. They spent a weekend in the Catskills, just the two of them, hiking and laughing under the stars. "I want this forever," Ethan said, his voice steady. Marcus nodded, his heart full but heavy. Forever was a big word, and they still had so much to face. Back in Brooklyn, Marcus poured his love into a new project, series of designs celebrating queer love, inspired by Ethan. The work felt like a declaration, a way to claim their story. But as Ethan's project neared its end, a new question loomed. Would he stay in LA, or come back to build a life with Marcus? The answer would define their future, and Marcus wasn't sure he was ready for it. Ethan's return to New York was quiet. No grand gestures, just a knock on Marcus's door. They stood in silence, then fell into each other's arms, the months apart dissolving in a single touch. "I'm staying," Ethan said, his voice firm. "I choose us." Marcus's relief was overwhelming, but so was the weight of what came next, building a life together in a world that wouldn't always make it easy. They moved slowly, deliberately. Ethan rented a studio in Brooklyn, close enough to Marcus's place to feel like home. They cooked together, argued over furniture, laughed at bad reality TV. It was ordinary, beautiful, and terrifyingly real. Marcus's designs gained attention, and Ethan's photos started appearing in galleries, their art intertwining like their lives. But challenges remained. At a family reunion, an uncle's offhand comment about lifestyle choices stung, and Marcus felt the old wounds reopen. Ethan squeezed his hand, a silent reminder, we're in this together. Andre and Claire stood by them, their support a bridge between past and present. Slowly, the family adjusted, some with warmth, others with grudging acceptance. One spring evening, Marcus and Ethan walked through the same park where they'd first faced their truth. Marcus carried a sketchbook, Ethan his camera. They stopped at the bench from the image prompt, now a symbol of their journey. Ethan pulled out a small box, his hands shaking. "I don't have all the answers," he said, "but I know I want you in every one of them." Inside was a simple ring, a promise of forever. Marcus's eyes welled up. He'd spent so long guarding his heart. But here, with Ethan, he felt safe. Yes, he whispered. And they kissed, the city fading around them. It wasn't a wedding. Not yet. But it was a vow to fight. To love. To build something unbreakable. Years later, Marcus's mural graced a Brooklyn wall. Two men holding hands. Their love bold and unapologetic. At the unveiling, Andre and Claire stood beside them, proud and tearful. The crowd cheered, not just for the art, but for the story it told, a hookup that became a home, a risk that became a life. Marcus looked at Ethan, his partner, his love, and knew this was the meaning they'd fought for, a love that defied the odds and reshaped their world.